Hi, everyone. It's nice that you have a time to connect. And today is our first webinar during the pandemic time. And today we have a guest from Leon Bernard Center of Cancer Center. And nice to meet you, Francesca. And she's a medical physicist, and she's has a background in computed tomography. Nice to meet you. And today we are going to bring visibility to photos which you are doing during your events. And floor is yours.
Thank you, Hipsi. Thank you, everybody, for joining this webinar in this particular days after a pandemic event. And so I want to thank you all for being here with us. And so good afternoon, everybody. I want to introduce myself to you. I'm Francesca Di Franco, and I'm a PhD student of medical physics. And I work in Lyon at Centre Léon Bérard, that is an hospital that works on cancer. Today we talk about photography. Well, maybe this is a bit strange. I'm a medical physics, and why we talk about photographies today? Well, let's start with a better presentation. So who I am and what are my passions. So maybe we can understand together why I'm here today. So as you know, I'm a medical physicist and I'm doing my PhD now. I started in March, but I was born in Naples, and I studied there medical physics, and I studied at the University Federico II. Why physics and photography? Well, since I was very young, I had two great passions that were photography and physics. When I was 6, I had my first camera, and I used it and I started shooting during school trips. And from there, I never stopped. So what is the connection with physics and photography? Well, when I was at university, I joined the Napolitan group of APS Young Mind, the Napolitan chapter, the PONIS, Physics and Optics Naples Young Students. And I was a member since 2013. So what I did with PONIS, we did a lot of scientific events, and I was their official photographer for quite all events that we did together. So I was a volunteer, and I had in charge of doing photography. But I also was the official photographer for an international conference of medical physics that took place in Napoli during 2017. So I gained in these years, in those university years, a lot of experience about photography. And here I report you some photography about me during scientific events. And this is also a group photo of the scientific committee of the International Conference of Medical Physics, which I talked about you, which I talked to you before. So I want to explain you how this webinar will be conducted. In the first part, I want to share with you some tips and maybe to see something related to camera, some parameters that I think that are very important to understand and to know in order to shoot better quality photos. And then we could enter in our hot topics. So how to create good multimedia contents for our event, maybe to share them in social network, and use to share with people and to keep people in touch with scientific association or meeting or something like that. So I think that we can start. Okay, as I told you, I want to start with some few basic principles of camera working. If you have a camera, but also if you use the camera of your telephone, you see that shooting in manual modality, you have some parameters that you can change in order to change the quality or the appearance of your photography. So what are these parameters? Maybe sometimes we understand, we know some of them, but we don't know how to use them, how can they affect our photos. So I want to start from a single and I think very important statement that is it's not important to have an expensive equipment, so an expensive camera or things like that. But I think that the most important thing is to know how your camera works. So it's important to experiment with your camera, to try to shoot, and maybe also to read the manual of your camera. So the camera have to be your best friend, and you have to know how it works. Let's start with few things and few parameters that for me are very, very important. First of all, there is the ISO. ISO of your camera, it's a sensor that it's sensitive to light. How it works? Okay, it works in this way. The more your ISO increase, the more your camera sensor will boost the brightness of the images. Here I reported an example for you. On the left, we see a photograph with a lower ISO, and then going to the right part of the photo, we see the same photograph with using an higher value of the highest values of ISO. But what we see in this photo, that increasing the ISO, it increases the noise of the image. So this is not always very useful. So I think it's important to understand how to use this parameter in order to balance it and to obtain better quality photos. But later we return on this parameter to underline other important concepts. Another important element is shutter speed. How we can understand what is the shutter speed. This is the amount of time that your camera's shutter is open. So how it works? The higher the shutter speed, the sharper your photos will be. So I report here two examples in order to better understand how it works. On the left, we have this image and we increase the shutter speed. Here we see the value. And what happens in this photo? We freeze the movement of the car, so we can see the car perfectly in a perfect way, sharp. We can recognize the two cars with a lot of details, I think. On the second photo, here on the right, what we do, we decrease a lot the shutter speed, and we obtain the so-called ghost effect. In fact, here we cannot recognize the details of the images, but we see also only, the ghost, so the shades and maybe the colors of the lights and nothing. So pay attention to the shutter speed, that it's very, very important. Maybe when people are moving and you have to shoot photos of people that are moving or something, an experiment with a lot of movement. It's really important. Another parameter is the aperture. What is the aperture? The aperture is the size of your lens opening that allows light to pass inside your camera, so to pass through your sensor. But how to explain this concept with an image? That it's the best thing, I think. Okay, connected to aperture, there is the F number, so the focal. How it works? Okay, here there are some examples. Think that we are shooting a landscape, and here we have some trees, an animal, and flowers in our landscape, in our photo. Okay, how works the aperture? If we increase the aperture and we decrease the focal number, we let enter inside our camera a lot of light. So we obtain a brighter, maybe sometimes too much brighter photos. And what happens if we increase the focal number, we decrease the aperture, and so less light enter inside the camera. And this is an important aspect when you have to shoot photos basing on the light and on the place where you are. And now we see another important characteristic, parameter, sorry, that is the depth of field. What is the depth of field? It's the proportion of the image that it's sharp and in focus inside the photo. Okay, to understand it, another image. Okay, how I can interpret this image. On the right, we have the same landscape we had before, and here on the extreme left, we have again the aperture and the focal number. Okay, if we decrease the focal number and increase the aperture, what happened in our photo? Our depth of field is small, so in our photo we have in focus only the flowers, and the rest of the photo is out of focus. If we decrease the aperture, so increase the focal number, here the last example, everything, the depth of field, it's bigger, and everything inside our photo, it's in focus. So keep in mind these important parameters and try to understand how they work using your camera, your personal camera. Now, let's enter inside the hot topic. One of the most frequent questions that people ask to me is, how do I take better photos? Well, this is not very easy to answer this question. But first of all, as I told you before, as I underlined you before, it's to understand well how your camera works. So you have to keep confidence with your camera. You have to know how to change parameters, but you don't have to study like you are at school. I think that you only can try, take your camera, go out and shoot photos. This is the best way to study your camera. But there is another important, that it's the second thing that I want to share with you, another little important tips. And I would start to statement by Robert Capa, that is one of the most famous photojournalists ever. He said, if your photographs aren't good enough, you are not close enough. What he wanted to say? He wanted to say that you have to get involved, get into your photo, get into action. I would say another thing that for me it's fundamental. photography, it's not only, something about technique, but it's something about feelings. For me, the most important concept is to use my eyes. So you can use your eyes. You have to see your photograph in your mind and then you shot. In this way, this is really, really important from my point of view. You will get much more natural images in this way. Okay, so as I told you before, I want to underline again how to use some parameters that we have seen before. When you have an event, when you have to shoot for a meeting, for a conference, or something like that, the first question that you have to ask yourself is, what time of the day are you shooting? And where? Okay, let's say, if you are outside during the middle of the day, maybe it's a sunny day, you need to keep your ISO lower. So put your ISO as low as you can in order to reduce the noise inside your image. If you have natural light, it's better, because remember that natural light, it's the best light you can have if you know how to use the parameters of your camera. Another important thing in this context is to pay attention to the frame per second, because if you are taking photos of something or someone that is moving a lot, you would not have the ghost effect. So pay attention to this. And another important thing is to not use the flash, because flash, it's not useful in this condition. Another maybe time of the day, or another context where you can shoot, it's maybe at nighttime or indoor. So in this case, you have to increase your ISO, but I always suggest to balance because of the noise. In fact, don't forget increasing your ISO, you increase your digital noise, and so use the flash. But pay attention to the flash, because maybe if you are during a conference, you mustn't, sorry, it's the best way to say, you mustn't disturb the speakers. From my point of view, when I took part to some conferences, while I was speaking, there were photographers that were shooting, and the flashlight was really disturbing me during my speech, and this is not good. But I want to underline again that every camera is different. So get into your camera, read your manual of the manual of your camera, and see and know all things that your camera is capable of. Okay, let's enter in another important point. Maybe here we represent two important points, and we represent this point with two words: share and connect. Now we know that we are in a period where sharing it's really important, and I think that if you have maybe a scientific association, or you wanted to organize a scientific meeting, but not only related with science, it's important to take care of social, like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and so on. Here I report some photos where you see guys and girls having ponies hashtag, and what they are doing, and why I'm showing you this kind of photos, because I want to tell you these funny stories in order to understand the power of social. These photos were shooted in 2017 when I was in Naples, and I took part as a photographer to this event that was a public scientific event organized in the most famous square in Naples. And we as ponies were there, sharing our knowledge and representing some scientific experiments. We at the social and on Facebook, we wanted to reach 1,000 followers, but we need maybe less than 50 followers, and we have an idea. We started from the concept that people, in most of cases, like to be on social, like be maybe tagged in photos. And so we started this little challenge. We asked people to shoot photos with our hashtag and to look for that photos on Facebook, and maybe to leave a like on our pages. So at the end, in less than 2 days, I think, we obtain our goal, and we obtain 1,000 followers on Facebook, and it was a great party in Square during our event. So this is maybe a bit funny, but this represents the power of social. So don't forget to take care about social. When you share something on social, you do not have to post only photos, but also videos. Videos are important, but you have to pay attention to videos, because if they are long, they bored people and maybe no one will watch them. So 2 words to describe videos that you have to post on social. They have to be short and appealing. Those are the 2 main words that are, I think, representative for video on social. And here I report 2 examples. Here on the left, we have 2 guys that are playing with fire. This video, it's short, it's appealing, it's interesting, because what are they doing? Why they are playing with fire? What they are blowing inside the can. So it's really curious, this kind of people, and this kind of video, and appealing for people. And on the right part here, we have another video that I've taken from a YouTube channel that it's Fisica in Pillole. This YouTube channel has account on TikTok where it posts a lot of little shorter videos explain scientific experiment. All those videos are less than 1 minute, and this channel is so famous on TikTok. It's gaining a lot of followers because of these shorter and interesting and very interesting videos. Another question that it's always asked to me, it's how to get people involved in science. Well, we know that for most of people that are maybe not involved or not curious in physics or science in general, they think that science it's something darker, not understandable by everyone, but this is not true. So I think that photos and videos could connect people with science. So I think that it's important to capture inside the photos the expressions of people. You have to shoot their face, sometimes their curiosity, their surprise. Here, in fact, you in the lower part of the slide, you can see this young guy with his stunned face, looking some experiments that we did during our event. Or here on the top right, those guys, those children that were really that are having a lot of fun seeing our experiments with eyes, but also this young woman that shooted this photo with a bubble, with a soap bubble. So I think that it's important to connect people and science, and let people understand that science, it's not too far from them. And you can say this important concept using a simple photo or a simple video, because I think that you have to remember that a photo tells you a story. And this is very, very important. Now, I want to give you some tips, some advices about privacy. I don't want to be very meticulous or because I haven't the competencies, but I can share with you my knowledge. First of all, you have to say that different countries have different rules, so keep informed. But during my experience, I have to face with different situation, and I've learned two important things. The first one is that during a conference, always prepare a sheet for asking permission in order to post photos or videos of people, maybe online or on social or on web pages. And the second tips, it's during public events, be careful, especially with children, because not always it's possible to post children's photos online. So if you meet their parents, you can ask for permission. If not, you can take some details, like in this photo on the left, or take them from the back, like this photo on the right. So always pay attention to those important things. At the end, I want to give some tips to the association, maybe, but I think they are useful for everyone. The first tip, it's do not involve too much photographers during a single event, because each photographer has a different style, photography style, so pay attention. It's not always useful to post photos with different style, because I always say that social are the ID card of maybe an association, of also of an event. So if you change style, you confuse your public. So you have to focus on a single style and continue to keep this. Another thing related to social, it's about posting. When you have a social account, I think that you do not post a lot of photos together. I always say that less it's good, but less and frequently it's better. So, for example, if you start a sort of an event and you shoot 20 photos, do not post all those photos in a single post, because it's not good. And maybe you leave your account without posting nothing for days. People forget about you. No one will see all the photo. So you can do in another way. You can post each photo every day, and then this is better because you can gain public interest, your public, and see that you are active on social. In fact, another tips is do not leave your account without posting, because this is not good. Remember, people forget about you. This is how social works. They have to be filled every day with the new content in order to keep people active, to maintain people active. And this is really important. I think so. It's better to have someone that is in charge of taking care of social media, always. And at the end, I want to share with you a tips that I've understood during my experience, especially with ponies, but also in the medical physics field. I've understand that it's important to shoot group photos. Why shooting group photos? And here I report some examples that I've shooted. Why it's important? Because here you build memories. Memories are really important in order to share with people, or maybe share with other participants of that join your association. It's useful to remember, but it's also useful to create a group. Maybe shoot funny photos, shoot interesting photos, interesting group photos, because the group, it's the most important thing that you have. So take care of it. This is another important concept that I want to share with you. Okay, this is the last part of the talk. And now we would like to analyze and to distinguish a good from a bad photos. How we do it? I will show you some photos, but I want to start a game with you. Maybe it could be interesting. I show you all the photos, and some are, I will comment some of them and non-comment other, in order to comment them together, and maybe we can share our opinion on those photos. Okay, let's start from bad. Let's start from bad photos. This first photo, it's not good. Why? Because it's a mess. It's a mess. There are too many people, too many children. You don't know what they are doing, if they are at school, or you cannot say that they are doing a scientific events and they are doing something scientific related to scientific world. You could maybe distinguish two guys and a girl with a blue t-shirt, but you cannot say nothing about this photo. So an important concept is to focus on one single thing that you want to share and you want to communicate in your photo. This is really, really important. Number two, okay, this photo also has some problems. Why? Because you sure can see some children, okay, but what they are doing, why they are putting their hand here, and what this guys is doing, who is him? You don't know if it took part to scientific association. You do not understand nothing from this photo. Remember that photo has to talk and to tell you something. Because if you are a social user and it's the first time that you see this photo, you have to understand what the photographer, or the association, or the one who posted the photo want to communicate with you, And in this photo, as in the previous one, you cannot say nothing about, because it's a mess. This is number three. I want to let you comment this photo, so I'll leave you a few seconds in order to think about it, and maybe then you can give me some question and maybe some opinion about this photo, and we can discuss together. Okay, next one, it's the last one. This photo was shooted by me, I think 2 or 3 years ago. And what is the problem of this photo? Nothing, okay. the left part of the photo, it's not in focus. Here there is the guy, but you cannot understand what he is doing. The perspective, it's not good. Also, this photo, it's a mess because it do not communicate nothing to the public, so you cannot understand what the photographer want to say. So it's really a bad photo. And now it's time for good photos. Let's see. Okay, this first one, I don't want to comment. I'll leave you the comments. I'll leave you a few seconds in order to see the photo and give me your advice about it. And maybe we can discuss together if you want. Okay, let's start with number 2. Okay, this photo, it's good. Why it's good? Let's analyze this photo together. Maybe someone could tell me, okay, yeah, this photo, it's okay. The girl here in the center, it's in focus, but the 2 old person are taken on the back. So what is this photo? Why this photo is good? Well, this photo is good because you can understand something very, very important from this photo. It's that science could be understandable and interesting for everyone, even for maybe older people that maybe are not interested in science, but they are curious. They are talking with this girl that is obviously, as you see from the t-shirt, a volunteer of a scientific association that is explaining something. So this photo represents the connection between science and people. Number 3, okay, this photo is one of the most famous we have. And I'm talking about ponies, the Napolitan Charter. Why why it's the most famous? Because here we represent there is represented the plasma ball and an experiment with a lamp and a plasma ball, and here the lamp it's turned on even without electricity. So we received a lot of questions about this photo. How you did this? Why it's turned on? So this photo captured the curiosity of people, and this is very important, as we said before. This photo, the number 4, I think that it's the most beautiful we have in this in all this example I'm reporting to you. Why? Because this photo, I think that talks in some way. Here on the left, we see this young girl that obviously belongs to a scientific association, because she had the t-shirt and also the badge. And what she's doing some experiment with a phone and with a I think it's a ping pong ball. So you can understand that she's maybe a student or someone that is showing us something related to scientific world. And on the right, you see this banner in which is written Ponies Physica. So the scientific association name, it's Ponies, and they talk about physics. So this photo talks and tells us a lot of things. The last photo I want to show you, it's this one, and I let you comment on this photo. I give you few seconds, and then we can discuss together. Okay, we are at the end of this webinar. I want to thank you all guys for your attention. I want to thank you Young Mind Chapters, APS Young Mind Chapters, to give me the possibility to share with you this my experience in this webinar. And I want also to thank you all the guys from Napolitan chapter ponies that give me all the photos for this presentation. So if you want to contact me, I'll leave you here my email address. You can ask me what you want. And so thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for a nice presentation. Indeed, the photos are telling stories and they are keeping the memories, and that's a very